Sorry, I'm back. OK, so au cours du temps, de différentes idées au sujet de la nature humaine et du processus pour faire des décisions ont été regroupées ensemble comme idéologie. Okay, so over the course of the last few hundred years, different ideas on the subject of human nature and how that kind of influences the way that decisions should be made, those kind of ideas or thoughts have been put together into what we call ideologies. So, une idéologie est une série de croyances et valeurs au sujet de comment la société devrait fonctionner. So, an ideology is a series of beliefs and values about how society should best function. Les différents types de gouvernements ont de différentes idéologies au sujet de comment la société devrait être organisée et quels sont leurs buts. Okay, so different types of governments that have evolved over the centuries are based off of different ideologies as to how society should be organized and what is the goal of society. So, votre première tâche d'écriture. Okay, so your writing task, que pensez-vous de la société? Expliquez ce que vous pensez à propos de la nature humaine. Est-elle naturellement bonne ou mauvaise? So what do you think about society? And what do you think about human nature? Do you believe that people, humans kind of on their own, are generally good, or are they generally bad, or are they some kind of combination of the two? Identifiez quel philosophe, John Locke, Thomas Hobbes, ou une combinaison des deux, avec lequel vous êtes d'accord au sujet des humains. Okay, so kind of your first sentence in this paragraph, it doesn't have to be more than a paragraph. So your first sentence in the paragraph will be you stating kind of your thesis or your idea on what you believe human nature to be. Is it good or bad or somewhere in the middle? And then your second sentence, you're going to identify with which philosopher you agree with. So John Locke, again, thinks that humans are naturally good and tolerant. Thomas Hobbes thinks they're kind of chaotic and always in conflict, or is it a combination of the two? So that'll be your second sentence. Ensuite, faites certain d'inclure des exemples qui prouvent vos croyances. Par exemple, si vous croyez que les humains sont naturellement bons, donnez-moi des exemples qui démontrent ceci. Vous pouvez utiliser des exemples historiques ou contemporains. Okay, so then your next 3 or 4 sentences will be kind of providing examples that prove your belief. So for example, if you believe that humans are naturally good, give me examples that kind of demonstrate this. You can use examples from history, or you can use examples from today, things that are happening kind of in modern day life. Okay. So la grille d'évaluation, so this is how we're going to mark it. So votre opinion est clairement écrite. Did you clearly state your opinion? Est-ce que vous avez identifié le philosophe? So did you clearly identify which philosopher you agree with? 10 points pour vos exemples et 10 points pour la grammaire et l'orthographie. So spelling and grammar and your examples. Okay, so this is kind of today's writing task. So make sure that you get this done. Ensuite, voici la leçon. So on va regarder aux différentes formes de gouvernement. Okay, so today is going to be maybe a bit longer than usual. There's, I think, 6 or 7 different types of government that I want to go through, and we'll kind of talk about those, and it'll come in handy later. So, les formes de gouvernement déterminent comment le pays est organisé, qui possède le pouvoir du pays et comment les criminels sont punis, et s'il y a des élections pour choisir ceux en pouvoir. Okay, so the form of government determines a lot. It tells us how the country is organized, who has power in the country, how are criminals punished, and are there elections to choose those who are in power. So, laquelle des formes de gouvernement est meilleure? So, again, the debate is always about which form of government is the best. There are pros and cons to kind of each type. And so it's kind of, ideally, it would be up to the people of that country to decide on their form of government. Au Canada, nous suivons la forme de démocratie. So Canada is a democratic nation, so we'll look at that. So voici les différentes formes de gouvernement qui existent. Okay, so on commence avec l'anarchie. So anarchy, Vraiment, ceci est un manque de gouvernement. So this is a complete lack of government. There is no one in power. It's a complete vacuum. Il n'y a personne pour vous dire quoi faire. Vous avez le droit de faire tout ce que vous voulez faire. Si vous êtes fort, vous allez réussir super bien, peut-être en tuant les autres. Vous n'avez aucune responsabilité. Ce n'est pas obligatoire ni nécessaire de travailler. Vous pouvez simplement voler des moins forts. Pas de taxes, pas d'argent. Encore, voler ce que vous voulez. Okay, so with a complete lack of government, there's nobody to tell you what to do. You have the right to do anything. If you are strong, if you are well organized, you can succeed by basically taking what you want from others, killing others if you need to. You have no responsibilities. It's not necessary to work. If you want something, you can just simply take it from others. Again, there's no taxes, no money. Just take what you want. Un exemple courant, c'est en 2004, la Somalie était en guerre qui a laissé ce pays sans un gouvernement. Ils ont établi une république depuis ce temps-là. Okay, so in 2004, there was a war in Somalia, which left the country without a government. So that was an example of a time where there was no government, and so was anarchy in that country. Since then, they've established a republic, which is a type of government. Une dictature. So quelqu'un qui possède le pouvoir du pays. Le gouvernement a toujours la même idée en tête. Okay, so a dictatorship, this is where one person has all of the power in the country. The government, again, always kind of the whole government has the same kind of mindset because it's all run by one person and they all do what that person wants. La seule chose comme citoyen nécessaire est de suivre les règles et tu vas être bon. So again, as long as you, as a citizen, follow the rules set out by the dictator, you're A-OK. Tu n'as pas besoin d'écouter à plusieurs campagnes de candidats. Le gouvernement est choisi pour toi. Again, some people may see this as a benefit, some people may not, but you don't need to listen to political campaigns of candidates because there are none, because the government is chosen for you. Les crimes sont minimisés à cause des punitions graves. Generally, in a dictatorship, punishments for breaking the rules are quite harsh, and so crime rates tend to be a little bit lower. Le système est stable car il y a seulement un petit groupe ou une personne avec les mêmes avis. Alors, il n'y a pas de désaccord. So again, in a sense, the system can be stable, again, because the government is ruled by one person and everybody else is expected to kind of toe the line and follow along. There's not a lot of disagreement or discord in the government, so things are supposed to run fairly smoothly. Les décisions sont vite. Again, because it's one person making the decisions and there's no debate, decisions can be made quickly. Il n'y a pas de coût associé avec les élections. Again, no cost associated with elections because there are no elections. Individual freedoms are often curtailed, however, right? So il y a un manque de liberté. So again, dictatorship. So des exemples courants. So la Corée du Nord est connue comme sous une dictature. So North Korea is an example. So the president controls all the decisions, including media, and who is able to leave and enter the country. La monarchie, so a monarchy, c'est la reine ou le roi qui fait la décision finale des lois et événements dans ce pays. So a monarchy is a form of government that is ruled by a king or queen. Ils ont le pouvoir infini. So again, there are kind of different spectrums on how much power the king or queen has. An absolute monarchy is one where the king or the queen has absolute power, and then there are other kind of, we'll see later, types of monarchies as well. Si tu es dans la famille royale, tu as encore une chance à la couronne quand la personne avec le pouvoir est mort ou a abdiqué. So if you are a member of the royal family, there's always, there's a succession line, so kind of who is next in power and who is second and third and fourth. So if you are in the royal family, there's always kind of a potential chance that you can climb to the crown. Because if the person who is the king or queen dies, or if they abdicate, so if they leave their position, the next person in line gains that power. On a quelqu'un d'autre pour réviser les décisions de loi. Again, if there is a kind of a parliament that kind of looks that creates laws, the king or the queen has to approve those laws. So it's again just another kind of layer of decision making. Il y a quelqu'un qui fait la décision du pays, une décision vite. On the other hand, if there is no parliament and it's all up to the king or queen, again, decisions can be made quickly because it is one person making that decision. So ça peut être moins cher, il n'y a pas de coût au niveau des élections parce qu'il n'y en a pas. Again, because this is a monarchy and it is something that is decided by birth, there are no elections, and so there is no cost to elections. Le transfert de pouvoir est plus facile et clair. So the transfer of power, so knowing who is the next ruler, is quick and easy because it is clear and decided by birth. Les monarchies ont typiquement une bonne armée. Ils sont alliés à travers le mariage. And so monarchies, especially historically, have typically been well armed. They have a good army, and they have a system of allies through marriages. Les monarchies aussi ont la fidélité du peuple à cause de la bénédiction d'un dieu. So the whole kind of concept of where does the monarchy's power come from is basically that they are the first king who established the monarchy or queen were chosen by God. Right? Whatever God that might be that society worships, that is kind of the root of that king or queen's power. That is what set them aside from anybody else and gave them the right to lead and rule. And so because the king or the queen is blessed by God and kind of ordained to be in that position, then the people who also worship that God have that kind of fidelity or loyalty to the king or queen. Le Maroc est un exemple de gouvernement sous la forme de monarchie. So Morocco is an example, current day, of a country that lives under a monarchy. Ensuite, comme j'ai mentionné déjà, il y a un autre genre de monarchie, c'est la monarchie constitutionnelle, so a constitutional monarchy. Il y a un parlement qui est fait par les membres élus et qui représente le peuple. So, in this type of monarchy, the king or the queen does not have all of the power. A large portion of that country's power comes from elected members that form a parliament. And these people are elected by the people who live, the citizens, the people who live in the society, and they are elected, and they are the ones that make decisions. So ce parlement prend les décisions pour faire fonctionner la société. So again, they're the ones that debate laws, decide how money is spent, all of that kind of thing. Le roi ou la reine signe les lois et autorise des décisions d'une façon symbolique. So in this case, the king or the queen, they generally don't have much to do with the making of the laws. They are more of a kind of a symbolic figurehead, and they are the ones that sign laws and authorize decisions. But the decisions themselves are made by elected officials. Ça assure un deuxième regard sur tout et garde une connexion entre le Parlement et la reine. Okay, so again, the king or the queen or the representatives of the kings and the queens, again, just give another layer to the decision making, and as well as keeping this connection between the Parliament, the people, and the ruling king or queen. Et le Canada est un exemple. So Canada with Queen Elizabeth being our kind of official head of state. However, we have the various layers of democratic governments with prime ministers, premiers in the provinces, and all of that is an example of a constitutional monarchy. Une oligarchie, so an oligarchy. So ceci est un petit groupe de personnes qui font une décision sur quelque chose. C'est d'habitude des riches, des forts ou des sages, et aussi des hommes. So generally an oligarchy is a small group of people who take on the power of making decisions. Usually they are rich, usually they are powerful, usually they're older, and usually they're men. And they are the ones who make the decisions. Généralement, les gens sont vraiment bien éduqués et ont beaucoup d'autorité. Ça fonctionne vite. So these men are typically well educated, quite powerful and rich. They're able to make quick decisions. Moins d'arguments pour faire des décisions, plus efficaces. So again, they're again, because they are kind of like-minded group, there generally aren't very many arguments, and so decisions can be quickly made and efficiently. Again, with that, you have the potential for corruption, for those men making decisions that make them richer and more powerful, and individual freedoms for members of that society may not be very important to them. Encore la Corée du Nord est un exemple encore. Le dictateur a un petit groupe d'hommes qui l'aident à faire des décisions. So la Russie est un autre exemple. So often kind of oligarchies kind of are work in tandem with dictatorships. So the dictator will often have a small group of close confidants who help him make decisions. So North Korea is an example, Russia is an example, China, all of that. La démocratie. So, ceci représente les peuples d'une façon juste. Il y a un système de vote pour décider le gouvernement et les lois. So democracy represents the people, the citizens, and it tries to do so in a just and fair way. There is a system of voting to decide who forms the government and who creates the laws. Souvent, il y a des débats dans le gouvernement. So democracy is based on the idea of debate and discussing ideas and coming to a compromise or making a decision that serves the needs of the most people. Les avantages pour les peuples. So la majorité gagne. Les représentants sont élus par les citoyens. C'est généralement sécuritaire. Tout le monde peut voter et s'exprimer. Tout le monde a des droits protégés et les lois sont strictes. Okay, so some of the advantages for the citizens is that generally the majority is represented. The representatives are elected by the citizens, so the citizens themselves have a voice in who leads them. Generally, those societies are safe. Everybody can vote and express themselves. Everybody has certain rights that are protected by laws, and those laws, again, can be strict to make sure that everybody is safe. Le gouvernement de la France aujourd'hui, c'est le peuple qui vote pour qui vont les représenter et les lois. Okay, so I would say that democracy is probably the kind of dominant form of government throughout, especially North America, Europe, even in Asia. So yeah, democracy is kind of the currently the most popular form of government. La théocratie, so le gouvernement par un souverain considéré comme le représentant d'un dieu ou de la religion. Okay, so theocracy is a government that is led by religion. And so the leader of that religion is also the leader of the country. Il n'y a pas de conflit religieux, so there are generally no religious conflicts because that society tends to, for the most part, the majority of the people follow the same religion. Le gouvernement est plus unifié et efficace quand ils prennent les décisions, car ils ont la bénédiction du Dieu. So again, because the government is led by a religious leader and they all have kind of the same belief in the same religion, the government itself can be more unified because they have one set of beliefs. They can be more efficient when making decisions, again, because they have kind of the blessing of whatever deity or God that they follow. And so again, decision-making process is kind of streamlined because it follows the beliefs of the religion. Les lois peuvent être signées plus rapidement que d'autres systèmes de gouvernement. Again, laws can be signed and put into effect faster than other systems of government. Les crimes sont souvent réduits car les pénalités sont d'habitude sévères. So again, crime can be reduced because penalties are usually quite severe. Some of the drawbacks is that if you are in the minority and you follow a different religion, then your rights, your beliefs may not necessarily be protected. And so individual freedoms can be impacted by theocracy. La cité de Vatican est sous gouvernance du pape, qui est l'évêque du Rhum. Vatican City is an example. It is ruled by the Pope, who is the leader of the Catholic religion. Iran is another example that is a theocracy, and there are others. Le communisme. So le communisme essaie d'avoir l'abolition des classes socio-économiques, l'argent et de l'État. So communism looks to kind of abolish socio-economic classes, so tries to get rid of rich, poor, kind of middle class, everybody should be the same. Kind of the ultimate goal of communism is to even get rid of things like money and the state, so that, you know, basically everybody works and everybody has their needs met. Il y a des types différents, so there are, like democracy, like there are different types of democracies, there are different types of communisms. Les personnes ont plus d'opportunités aux choses qui appartiennent aux personnes avec un haut statut économique. So the goal is that you know, everybody has access to the same things, so it's not just the rich that can go to the best schools. You know, everybody has the same access to the same healthcare, to the same education, to the same job opportunities. Tout le monde est égal. So ideally, everybody under the law would be equal. L'éducation, les emplois et les soins de santé. So again, education, employment, healthcare should all be available to everyone. Les personnes qui sont pauvres ont de l'accès d'éducation et aussi les soins de santé. So again, you know, even the poor people have access to education, you know, all the way up to university, as well as healthcare. Il minimise aussi les personnes sans emploi et mieux pour la minorité. So again, it could be better for minorities. Again, because so communism kind of, again, at its ideal, gets rid of money, gets rid of the state, and everybody just kind of works together communally. The reality is far from that. Often communism is also associated with oligarchy and stuff like that because, again, somebody has to rule. And so, you know, there are opportunities in communism for abuse of power. We see that in China and Cuba. Where, again, people who are, excuse me, in government, while they try and get rid of the rich and the poor and you know, those in power, again, tend to make themselves richer than those not in power. So the ideal of communism and the reality of communism are sometimes quite different. And again, individual rights are not as important as the communal needs, so the needs of the community, and so individual rights can often be hampered or reduced or eliminated for the betterment of society. Okay, so avec toute cette information-là, selon toi, quelle forme est la pire et pourquoi? So, donnez-moi quelques phrases ici. Quelle forme de gouvernement est la pire et pourquoi? Et aussi, selon toi, quelle est la meilleure et pourquoi? So, in this section, I want you to tell me which of these forms of government is, in your mind, the worst, and more importantly, why, right? So I want you to explain the why in a couple of sentences, and then which do you think is the best, and why? Okay. Pour numéro 2, vous allez suivre ce lien ici. Okay, so l'information sur les 3 niveaux du gouvernement au Canada. Je vais vous montrer la page dans un instant et vous allez lire la page et écrire un peu d'informations sur quel niveau de gouvernement ont quelle responsabilité. Okay, so in Canada, there are 3 levels of government. Le gouvernement fédéral est responsable pour tout le pays. Okay, so the federal government is responsible for the entire country, and so it is responsible for certain things. Les gouvernements provinciaux sont responsables pour qu'est-ce qui se passe dans chaque province ou territoire. So provincial governments are responsible for, again, specific things that happen in each province. So the government of Ontario is responsible for some things. The government of Canada is responsible for other things. Et ensuite, on a le gouvernement municipal. So your municipal government, so that is the government of the city or the town you live in. Again, so between those 3 levels of government, they have kind of split up responsibilities so that all of our needs are met. Okay, so je vais vous montrer cette page ici. Ok, so comme vous pouvez voir, en français, malheureusement, les accents causent des problèmes. Donc, vous pouvez aller en haut ici, English, changer la page et vous allez voir toute l'information. Okay? So, j'aimerais que vous lisez chaque section et donnez-moi quelles sont les responsabilités pour chaque niveau de gouvernement. Okay, so kind of try and see what things are in common for each kind of level, and then talk to me a little bit about it. Give me some of the responsibilities and what is it that those provinces, those levels of government are responsible for. Okay. Ok, et finalement, je crois, oui, ceci est la dernière chose. Okay, so vous avez un scénario à lire ici. Okay, so there's a scenario, and then votre tâche. So your plane crashes, and then you have these items that are on the plane. Et vous allez les mettre en importance, en ordre d'importance. So you're going to look at all of these items. And you are going to kind of list them in what you think is most important, being number 1, and what do you think is least important, number 2, for your survival. Okay. Now, I will tell you the answers are kind of below here, so don't look below for number 1. So just kind of what do you think is most important off of your own. And then étape numéro 2, you're going to look down at what experts say is most important to least important, and then kind of do the math and figure out the difference between your choice and the other, or the expert's choices. Okay. Oops. And then at the bottom here, ton raisonnement. So I want you to explain your decision and why you put what you put number one, all the way down to number 15. So just, again, one quick little sentence, explain your rationale or your reasoning for why you decided what was important and what was not. Okay, so ça c'est votre travail pour aujourd'hui. Encore un rappel, ignorez cette première tâche d'écriture, c'est qu'est-ce qu'on a fait hier. Et faites certain de me remettre votre tâche d'idéologie. So this writing task, make sure I get that. Ok, so c'est tout pour aujourd'hui. Je vais rester autour si vous avez des questions. Sinon, bonne journée et envoyez-moi un courriel ou à M. Levac un courriel si vous avez aucune question. Ok, merci. À demain tout le monde.